survived your workday, your rush hour commute, and you are ready to just kick back and unwind. Put your favorite slippers on, make your favorite drink, and join me, Kyng Kevyn, for the Cocktail Hour with Kyng Kevyn. You survived. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Kyng Kevyn. I'm so excited to bring to you another episode of the Cocktail Hour with Kyng Kevyn. I'm going to skip all the niceties and get straight to it. I'm extremely excited about today's guest, my publicist, who gets me right and gets me together. I'm excited to have him on. So let me introduce you guys to Mr. Christopher Weaver. Before he comes in, let me just say he was raised in Charlotte, North Carolina. But he left there and came to the Temple University in Philadelphia after high school to pursue his degree in radio, TV, and film. Upon leaving the hallowed halls of Temple University, he started a thriving career in public relations and marketing. His roster included radio personalities, Miss Philadelphia, several indie record labels, and singers. He is currently working with acclaimed actor and author Nakia Dillard, who has a recurring role on The Wonder Years. He's also representing first published trans author from North Carolina, Audrey Nicole, and celebrity certified image and wardrobe consultant, Charles Gregory. And of course, last but never least, the iconic Kevin Mines, who is known for his indelible imprint in the adult film industry, activism, and HIV education work. Chris also represents Soul by Troy, luxury shoe line by Jarek Brockington, all under the umbrella of his privately owned and operated firm, Oracle Media Relations. Christopher started this passion in 1998 and over the years has written for major magazines, including XXL Magazine and Men's Health. This will be his last year, sadly, in PR, with the plan to focus on other career objectives and dreams, which isn't sad. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my publicist, my friend, Christopher Weaver.
Hey.
I didn't say singer. And singer.
Yeah.
He can hold a 1 and a 2 for you. How are you, Chris?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I'm a little nervous, but I'm excited to be here.
We do this every day.
I know. I'm just used to being in the background, so I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm excited to have you. So
thank you.
I wanted to get into a couple of things about your career, your writing, your acting, your PR work. And we could talk about some of the singing, because I remember back in the day, I was at the God environment and I walked in the door and you was in praise and worship, doing praise and worship. So we can talk about that too.
Sure can.
Before we do that, this is the cocktail hour. I got my drink in my cup. So tonight I am drinking a margarita, regular margarita, which was bartended not by me this evening, but by my assistant, Devontae. So shout out to my engineer in the background, taking care of everything, make sure we look good and make sure I look good.
We love Devontae.
Yes. Chris, are you drinking?
I am drinking Diet Coke.
Okay. Listen, I love that you're doing it, because I want people to understand that you don't have to have alcohol to join the cocktail hour and still have a wonderful time.
No, just show whatever libation that you like. I mean, I do love a good Moscow Mule, but I decided today just to play safe. I'm a man of a certain age. I got to watch my sugar intakes after a certain time of the day.
I need to pay attention to that.
Yes.
All right. So the PR part, there's a lot to be said about that. But before we jump into the meat of that, let's explore some of the other things that you've done in your career.
Sure.
Let's rewind way before you talk about the acting and the writing. What was it like coming from North Carolina to Philadelphia to go to Temple University? And the 90s it was?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How was that for you?
I grew up in a very provincial small town in North Carolina. It's called Charlotte. It is 45 minutes south of Wilmington and about 25 minutes north of Myrtle Beach. So if you're ever going on vacation, I'm quite sure a lot of you been to Myrtle Beach. It's a great area. And then Wilmington used to be a really big conduit for shooting television and films like Firestarter. I think Drew Barrymore was in it, and like a bunch of Stomping at the Savoy, different
Wow.
things like that have been filmed there. So it was just a small area. It was beautiful. Everybody knows everybody. It's very hard to go anywhere and somebody not know you. That could be a good or bad thing.
I would imagine that would be a bad thing for me. I get into so much trouble.
Right. So, but then coming to Philadelphia, it was like a candy store. I was like, oh my God, all these different people, the culture, the food, the dating scene. School was amazing. I am still best friends with at least five of my closest friends to this day from Temple, and that's been since '92.
Oh wow.
So I'm blessed. Like those were some of the best years I ever had um in my life. And I'm glad that I chose Temple. TU.
Okay, that's what's up. So it's giving you a network of people that you can call friends and colleagues.
Yes.
So you let me just look at your
And hi Mutima, I see you. I sent out a bunch of text messages like I'm like y'all better show up. So people are showing up. Good.
so you went to Temple to study radio, TV, and film. So what were you when you were going to Temple and you first started your first class, you said by the time I graduate, I want to accomplish what?
Hmm. Mainly I was like I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I always knew that growing up I wanted to do something in entertainment. I just didn't know what. So in
Okay.
high school, I knew that growing up, I always just loved television and I love theater and things of that nature. So I was drawn to that. So I knew that going to Temple, as opposed to staying at home where there was no opportunities, would at least open up the doors for that, and it did. So the main thing I was like, I wanted to be a screenwriter. I wanted to write movies and stuff. I
Awesome.
knew that I could act and sing and all the other stuff, but I'm actually very shy. So I prefer to be in the background, singing in the
Okay.
background. So that's from Martin. But that's what I wanted to do. I always wanted to write plays or scripts or anything of that nature.
Awesome. We have that in common, actually.
Yes.
So, where was the pivot? Like, where you came in knowing entertainment, but how did you pivot into public relations?
That is a very good question. So after leaving Temple, I was like, what am I gonna do? But I had this really great opportunity. There were some interim things that happened. So um, in 1995, I came out and I ended up at this organization called the Colors Organization.
Wait,
Shout
you're
out to
gay?
Color. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Shh.
Shh, don't tell me too. Don't tell nobody though.
Shh. Yeah.
I'm
Don't tell
sorry. Go ahead.
nobody.
So you ended up at the Colors Organization.
Yes, and that was life changing for me because when you come from, like I said, from North Carolina, from especially not knowing what that looks like and not
Mhm.
having the language to express, like, I'm looking for a safe place, I'm looking for people that look like me, and then to end up in a place where not only was it safe, but it was people that looked like me. They were of color. These were men and women who poured so much into me. But long story short, I kept coming to the support groups that would happen on Wednesday, and again, shout out to all those wonderful people, Nate and everybody else. Um,
I kind of want to stop you real quick because
mhm.
you just mentioned in colors. If you're from Philadelphia and you're a part of the LGBT community, you kind of know what colors is. But for people who aren't a part of our community or from Philadelphia, can you explain what colors is?
The Colors organization was created in 1991, like I almost quoted because I was a staff member. Um, and it was created, again, like I said, to empower and create resources for LGBTQ plus women and men and of color, and also that includes trans people as well. So that's what the organization, that was the premise of it. They had resources that were for social stuff, people that needed assistance with housing, The support groups. I was the editor of the magazine, so that's where I was going with that particular story. I was the executive editor of the Colors magazine, and I ended up getting that job while at Temple. So I was honored that the former executive director, Michael Henson Jr., saw something in me, and he said, "We need an editor." And I was like, "I don't know if I know anything about that." He's like, "What are you going to school for?" So I'm going to school because I want to be a writer. And da, da. He was like, "Yeah, I think you'd be great." He said, "I love the way you talk in group." Da, da, da. And it just went from there. So that was a blessing.
Awesome. So is that where the pivot came in?
Yeah, that's where the pivot came
that
in.
was the pivot. Okay.
Because go ahead.
I was just going to say, because you also mentioned that's where you were doing writing and editing for.
Right.
Okay.
So my first major assignment was my mentor until he passed away. I met Elin Harris. And for you that don't know Elin Harris, please Google him and get all his books. But Invisible Life and all the books after that are the books that probably changed my life. But so I came in the office one day, and the former assistant director told me, "We're sending you out on an assignment to interview someone." And I was like, "Who?" He was like, "Elin Harris." I was like,
Yes.
"What?"
Yeah.
I was like, and I think I had to run to the store to get a recorder because I didn't have one, and I had to come up with these questions really fast. But long story short, I made it to the hotel where he was staying, and he was so welcoming. He was like, "Take off your shoes, sit down. What you want to eat? What's your name
Wow.
again?" "Oh, I love you." Because he was from Arkansas and I'm from North Carolina. We talked about those different cultural experiences.
Right.
And we talked for hours. Like I was only supposed to be there like maybe an hour. I spent like half the day there.
It'd be like that.
Yeah, and it was the most amazing thing. And we stayed in contact until he passed away.
Wow. That's
I,
awesome.
I miss him very much, but he was extremely paramount as to why I wanted to do the things that I've done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, you a lot of times people overlook those types of connections. Like for you, it was Elin Harris. I've had a couple of people who've inspired me or who mentored me with writing or other things.
Hmm.
So I really love the fact that you were able to build that connection and then, like it set you on a trajectory. Because I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have met you and we wouldn't have the relationship that we have had you not been on that trajectory.
Yeah,
So,
thank God. I
so
also met James O'Hardy and a few other people. Yeah.
yeah. So that there is a blessing. Do you feel like knowing Elin Harris and having met James Earl Hardy and being in that world of editing, how well not do you think, but how has that influenced your writing?
There's so many people and things that have influenced my storytelling, my narratives, the prose, everything. It literally goes from Elin Harris to Biggie. I love hip hop. People are shocked when I can basically, if you turn on a Tribe Called Quest, put on any album, most of the songs I know, and people be like, "You, Chris?" I'll be like, "Yes." So Elin, what he poured into me was just like, don't give up on your dreams, don't get swayed, because he started by selling his book out of the trunk of his car. So he constantly would email me. I still have those emails. When
Wow.
I feel depressed or sad, sometimes I go look at them. Also, my on Facebook, you have your one major picture, and then you have
Yeah.
the picture that's behind you.
Yeah.
When he autographed my book, I'm never taking that picture down. It's never going to change. I will
That
change
is
my
true.
regular profile pic, but when I need inspiration, I look at it because I can hear him in my head saying,
Wow.
um, and he will always say, "Mr. Weaver." He hardly ever called me Chris. Like, "Mr. Weaver, I need you to do this and I need you to do that." And I'm like, okay, like, I wish that he could have lived to see some of the things that I've done and some of the things I'm planning on embarking upon later in life this year. But I thank him. I pray that heaven, that he has a periscope view of whatever I'm doing. But
Yeah.
again, like him, and again, even with Biggie, listen to him rhyme and write some of the stuff that was written. Don't get high on your own supply. Like I
Mm,
love iambic pentameter and stuff that rhymes or whatever. So those different things influence me.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, what it I want to know about within your writing, what have you like I don't want to put this. What of your work have you said? damn, I did that. And you look back at it and you see like you're so proud, like, hey mom, look what I did.
Probably the one thing that sticks out was my first editorial for Colors.
Okay.
And I want to give kudos to my friend. We're not friends anymore. Life has changed, but one of my influences, Stephanie Grant, she was doing PR and she's a writer. And I remember I wrote the first draft, and she was like, "No, you need to talk about where you come from and how impactful this is, or whatever." And we had an anniversary party for Colors in the magazine, and I got up to read the editorial. I was so proud. I was so proud. I was like, all this hard work did not go for nothing. So probably that. Also getting the chance to like interview other people that are in music and entertainment.
Can I ask, what did you write about in that article or in the editorial?
Cause let me see, because we're talking like 20 something years ago. I talked about how excited I was to be named the editor, the fact that the organization existed and I didn't know. I paid homage to my LGBTQ plus ancestors. Paid homage to um, the living legends because there's so many people back then. Unfortunately, some of them are not here today. Um, and that editorial as well. It was brief, but it was concise, and that helped me over the years. I sometimes when I'm writing, I could be a bit verbose, and I have to go back in and clean it up because it can be too many words. You don't words. One of the beautiful things about language is that if you choose the correct words, you can get your message across very simply. You don't need a lot. So that's what I gleaned from writing that. But yeah, that's what I was basically was saying in the editorial.
Nice. Do you ever feel like your writing influenced your acting? 'Cause I'll just preface this with, as someone who writes and I've directed, or as a photographer, it's backwards. As a model, when I get behind the camera, it's a lot easier to direct because I know what it feels like to be on that side. So as an actor, it's like finding the words, but when you're writing, it kind of influences you can get into the mind of the writer as well as the character a lot more. So
Hmm.
how has that helped, if it has at all? Is it married in some ways for you?
Yeah, because when you're reading a script that maybe somebody else has written, let's just say I didn't write it,
Hmm.
you look at the words that you can connect to. If there's something in there that's just a morsel that you like, I know what that word means.
Yeah.
I know how I use it, but how does it fit for that character? Because again, one of the beautiful things about language, it can be simple, but it's also very malleable. You don't have to beat a word up to get your point across. So the way I may use multitude might not be the same way the character use it, but it still has a general definition. So when I'm writing something, I want to make sure that just like anything else with like placement is everything. Whether you're cooking, too much salt, too much pepper, not enough. Whether you're singing, somebody that does a bunch of runs, but then they don't have any other vocal techniques to show off.
Yeah.
Whether you're running, but are you running properly? Are you using proper posture? Placement is everything.
Hmm.
So also a semicolon versus a colon, like that tells you whether or not do you take a pause there
Right.
or whatever. The ellipses with the three dots, you definitely know that's trailing off into a thought. So as opposed to saying, I'm so mad, as opposed to saying, I'm so mad.
Right.
And that's called a beat. So you're taking a beat.
Yes, given acting classes.
The little bit I do know.
Letting me know, because I hear all the time. I've used it, but like sometimes on set or on stage, when people say, "All right," or like when I write, I put that in the script. There's a beat
Hmm.
here, and people are like, "What's the beat?" I don't hear it.
Oh gosh.
I don't hear
The,
the beat.
the beat is silent. The beat is a breath.
So again, I want to talk about your acting as well. But before we get any further into the acting, I want to play a clip that I'll let you set up the clip.
Oh, cool. I almost forgot I sent the clip. So, I play a doctor in a series called Talks with Myself. It is part of Omi Production, under director Roger S. Omias Jr. You can go to www.omepro.com, and it's called Talks with Myself. And you'll see the cast picture, but in this particular scene, this was a couple, and I'm their doctor, therapist slash mediator. So, and it goes from there.
All right, well, let's watch that clip and we'll be back.
Curtis.
Rafi.
So, we're all here. Let's get started. Raphael, I know you came in today to see the progress that Curtis has been making in terms of his anger management. We've gone over the tools and the exercises that he's implemented to lessen the control of him losing his anger, and I can vouch for that. You've been quiet. It's your time to speak. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Just don't believe it.
Believe what?
Progress you have made. You're good fooling the people the same way you're fooling this doctor right now.
And there you have it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And there you have it. Now, where do you go to channel these characters when you're on stage, because you've done stage work on film, and stage and film is definitely different. So how do you channel these characters, and how do you stay in character, and how do you remember all those lines?
That was a simple scene. It was funny because it took us a long time that day to get this scene right, because blocking, and for those of you that don't know what blocking is where the line and where you physically are supposed to be when said line is being executed. So if I'm supposed to, when I said, when he walked in and then he sat down, there's also a number of steps for that. So that was a pretty easy scene for me, because that's pretty much what I do at work. So it was almost like playing myself. But at the same time, I had to strip off Christopher and be more stoic in my delivery. And then also my natural instincts for always being a mediator in most of my friendships or relationships or whatever, in terms of people, places, and things, it kind of came easy. But it was funny because that day it was just a blocking. So we had to do it over a couple times, but it was a fun scene. I wish y'all have to go to the site and see more. That's why it's such a brief clip, because also some of the other episodes in this new season is a doozy. I pretty much stay the same, but I do and I don't. I get to do a little bit more as an interactive part of the cast.
Awesome.
So I'm excited about that. But I usually just think about what I want to convey. And then also, if you have an excellent director like Roger, who also has a vision for what he's written, they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
But he's really good at working together about, like, well, Chris, what do you think here, or whatever? Or he'll be like, because in that particular, for my character, he doesn't want me to talk in his register. He wants me to stay down here. I'm supposed to stay down here every time I deliver lines. Wow. I can't talk up here. So that's also a challenge, because, I'm pretty animated. And also being a first tenor with alto reach and all this other stuff, I'm always like up in the rafters or somewhere doing something. So to be down there the entire time and talk so controlled was really an extension of being an actor.
I love that. Do you have a favorite role that you've ever done, stage or film?
It's been a little limited. I will say I'm in another series, but the series has been halted with production and stuff, and the producers and directors had some personal things going on. But I really have enjoyed playing the therapist, and then that's like my number one, and my second is playing Van in Life Changes. Life Changes was shot in Charlotte, North Carolina. Shout out to Tracy and Crystal. Nice. I got to play this over the top fashion designer.
I love that.
Who is a mentor to a friend she's all over the place. So I'm her voice of reason. But then I got to be cute in every scene. Which was also, oh, this is actually one of the shirts I wore for Life Changes, but which was fun because we basically styled ourselves. But I had a lot of fun playing that character as well. Both I love because they're, as far as like polar opposites. Like Van is very much, oh, I'm hungry, let's go, I'm ready to go, and Dr. Williams is very controlled.
Right.
So, and at one point, I think I was shooting some of the stuff simultaneously. Like I would have to go to Charlotte and then come back all the way back up to North Jersey.
I've never had the opportunity to do something like that. It sounds like a lot, but it also sounds really fun to me to be able to like jump back and forth and like explore the levels of my talent or my gifts. So
yeah,
that's awesome. You live in the dream because I want to do that so bad.
I want to do more, but I don't know if this is now the time where I get to talk about the new thing I'm going to be doing, but I'll wait.
Okay. All right. So that being said, we know that Chris has an announcement that he's going to make here on live, by the way, on the Cocktail Hour with Kyng Kevyn. Is your cups getting empty? Because mine ain't. I need to drink a little bit more.
Hi, Denise. That's one of my very, 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 very best friends that live in Atlanta. I love her so much.
Hey, Denise.
Yes, all the way from ATL.
Also, I do want to say shout out to Audrey because I seen she's been on here for a minute too.
Hey, Audrey, this also other client.
Yeah. So, now I want to get into what I call or what I'm considering the meat of our conversation.
Sure.
Because that's why we're working together now. Because you are a publicist. You've done work in public relations and marketing. You've done the film, the radio stuff. You've done writing for publications. But I see, based off of my history of knowing you and working with you, that you actually do have a passion for what you do. I think it takes passion to be up at 12 o'clock or almost 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes, helping people get in and out of situations. And it takes passion to have a full-time job and still work with multiple clients. That's not just, oh, I'm making money on it. So that's a passion.
It is.
So we talked about you pivoting, but what was it like? At what point in your career did you say, hey, no, I don't want to be a public relations guru. I am a publicist. I am that guru. When did you say, okay, this is it? This is what I wanted to do?
Long story short, because these stories, I got to write a book. But my first...
Is that the announcement you want to make? You writing a book? Let me stop.
No, that's not it. at some point. But my first, I had two major clients. My first client ever was Tiffany Bacon. Shout out to Tiffany Bacon. Okay. Tiffany is a Philadelphia radio legend. She and I went to Temple. I met her in the dorms. I remember knocking on her door in the dorms because everybody, we were in the same program. She was graduating. And I was just like, I got to figure out because I had projects to do. And I went and knocked on her door. And she showed me her student films and I was just blown away. Tiffany is like a major visionary. But fast forwarding to 1998, I reached out to her and was like, I want to do PR and I would love to be your publicist and I would do it for free. Because I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I could do it. And talking to mentors and stuff, they said I could do it. It was trial and error. I'm not going to lie. It was trial and error. Thankfully, me and Tiffany are still very good friends. Good. But there were sometimes I know she was like, what are you doing? That's not what I, because I was also producing her show, which was Inner City. Inner City was one of the top shows on Power 99. And I was doing that. So working with Tiffany, that's when I knew I wanted to do this. Because working at Power 99, I got to meet so many different people. Erykah Badu, Eric Benet, Speech from Arrested Development, all of the Roots. Yeah, I just knew that this is what I wanted to do because I enjoy helping people get to their dreams. And it was also fun back then. It was really fun to be able to go to red carpet events, parties that lasted till 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, flying to Miami for stuff, going in the studio with different artists. That's when I knew I wanted to do it. Mainly because I was like, I knew I was good, but it was also fun. And I was younger then.
What would you say is the highlight of public relations for you?
That is such a good question. I guess the duality of that answer would be again, helping people get to where they need to get. Like working with Audrey Nicole. She is one of the first published trans authors out of North Carolina. And I told her that's iconic. That's a major market for her in terms of it's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that many trans people or Black trans women that's living in North Carolina that has written a book that is so no holds barred and doing stuff like that to say that when she gets older and she's somewhere accepting awards or whatever, and she may say, I love you, Chris, thank you for helping me. That will just make my entire life. And then the other part, the highlight has been just creating events for some people that couldn't necessarily maybe pay me all that I was worth up front, but then on the back end, one client, I helped her in the beginning when she was just doing pop-up shops and food trucks and stuff. And then when she got her brick and mortar restaurant, she wrote me a check one day for $5,000. And God makes no mistakes because baby, my bank account was below E.
Oh,
And
wow.
she wrote the check. I was like, are you sure? She said, Chris, you stuck with me when nobody else did. And the check cleared, by the way. So I
Yes,
just want to be clear about
clear.
that. Because, I don't really take checks these days. But back then I would. But those are the moments that I live for. I think I left an imprint that I'm going to be proud of.
I have this philosophy with people that I I mentor or that I feel like I'm like leading or helping or giving that hand up. Every time I give, whether it's monetary, whatever the resource is, it's an investment, and I let them know very clearly I'm giving this as an investment. However,
Hmm.
I don't need you to pay me back in anything material. You pay
Right.
me back would be your success. Me being able to watch a high school kid walk across the stage because he used the investment that I gave, or watching someone see their dreams realized because of the investment. And that's how I hear what you're saying. Like, I mean, you did it pro bono, not even expecting the blessing that came behind it. So there's a whole big lesson in that. And I want to talk more about the PR, but we got to get into the spiritual side of things. And
Okay.
I think that is like the perfect way to look at what you do. Like when I mentioned passion, I have this quote that I gave the other day to someone. Your passions are your vehicles to life, and your God-given gifts and abilities and talents, those are the wheels to that vehicle, and the fuel is that love and ambition that you're always sharing. That
Yes.
fuels that vehicle, and that's why I think in a lot of situations you and I talk offline about some of the things that I go through or you go through. But I think like even yesterday I had an issue and I called. It's like Chris, I'm not doing this no more.
Right.
But it all comes back to that realization of why are you doing it? What's the vehicle? What's the passion? How are you going to operate the vehicle, and how are you fueling it? Um, I'm sorry, I just had a preachy moment.
No, I'm soaking it all in.
Yeah,
Thank you.
but that's what I'm hearing. Like those words come to mind when I think about how much you put into what you do. Because yeah, you're a writer, you can sing, you're an actor, you know the ropes when it comes to public relations, but the passion is helping people. Like based off of what I've seen, because you do it
It is.
selflessly.
It is. And when you talk about the spiritual piece of that, I am the son and grandson of ministers, and we don't have to harp on Christianity or whatever, but your spirit, and I do believe in Jesus and his daddy, but your spirit is something that will carry you. And my life has not been a crystal staircase at all. Like I survived childhood sexual abuse,
Wow.
moments of being homeless, moments of couch surfing, moments of being extremely broke, high moments of having lots of money, high moments of staying in wonderful places or whatever. But I always kept talking to God. When I was little, I used to walk outside, and my grandmother like had all these trees and stuff in the front yard, and I would just walk through there and I would just talk to God. And I knew that he heard me.
Hmm.
Because even with 2 suicidal attempts, I'm still here. And I knew that he heard me and understood that I had a greater goal of no more than just existing. I always talk to God. I talk to him when I sing. I talk to him when I pray. I have an amazing partner. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Mike.
Um, he is extremely spiritual as well. You got to align yourself with people too, the guy that's on the same spiritual plane as you or higher. They can't be
Yes.
below you. They can't be below you. They got to
So
meet you
let
at
me stop you there though,
hmm
because if you can't reach to someone below you, then the person higher you, then you can't pull you up.
Well, when I say, I don't want to say beneath you, like it's a tier. But when I say below you, like if they're not at least trying to climb,
Yeah,
because for me, it's easy to reach back and go get people, but it's hard to pull people up when they're not trying.
that's true.
So that's what I mean. I'm not
Okay,
being a spiritual
100% with you.
classist at all.
100% with you on that one.
Yeah. So spirituality and my faith is extremely important. Like, and I text my friends all the time and tell them I'm praying for them, and I really am praying for them. When I say I'm praying for you, Kevin, I mean it. Because prayer is another way of giving yourself away.
That
I
is
don't
true.
want to leave here just like so many people that I admire. I love Fantasia, and if you ever seen her in concert, and some people similar to her, Fantasia leaves everything on the stage. She be sweating, hair done, shoes gone. Patty and a few other people. That's how I want to live
Yeah,
my life, and I want to be able to say that when I'm gone, I left everything here that I was supposed to leave. Only thing I want to take with me is my spirit. That y'all can't have.
absolutely. I'm here for that.
Yes,
I want to move on real quick.
sure.
So you are a publicist. You are your screen name for a couple of things is PR guru.
hmm
So I would like to put you to the test.
I think I'm ready.
So what I'm going to do, I have this list here,
hmm
short list, and I'm going to read a story, and I
Sure.
want you to tell me how you would fix. You're gonna be Ayala, and you want to fix their life.
Yeah, here we go.
All right. So my first story, um, at the beginning of 2020, horrible year.
Yes.
We lost Kobe Bryant,
Yes.
and a couple people had some things to say. So hear me out, and then you tell me how you're gonna fix it.
Okay.
Many people took issue with Gayle King's interview with the WNBA star Lisa Leslie, where the journalist inquired about Kobe Bryant's 2003 sexual assault case. But no one was angrier than Snoop Dogg, who was a longtime friend of the late basketball star. The rapper released an expletive-laden Instagram video that seems to threaten King, with him saying, "Back off, B, before we come get you." In one part, in his first response to people condemning his strong words, he denied intimidating the journalist, but later issuing a full apology to King. "I publicly tore you down by coming at you in a derogatory manner. I should have handled it in a different way than that," Snoop said. Now, Chris, what I need you to do is tell me how you would help Gail out of the situation and how you would help Snoop out of the situation.
So those are two very specific people with different branding markers. So
Mhm.
Gail is a respected journalist. She is also Oprah's best friend. She is also what the executive editor, probably for, I think she is for O magazine. If
Wow.
she's not like the editor in chief or editor at large or whatever. So when you think about that, I don't know if it's much I would need to consult Gail on, because honestly, a conversation with her would probably be quite easy, because I would say to her, "What do you want to do?" And because of how she's navigated so many different things, and this is not, I think for journalists, it's harder because they're telling the truth. and they're telling a story without biases most of the time. So I would probably actually just ask her what would she want to do, and if it's not something I agree with, then I'll be like, well, I think maybe you should make a statement. And what saying what you feel, but don't take away the meaning behind it in terms of she meant what she said. Like Nene said, I said what I said.
Right.
Now with Snoop, he's again a very specific brand, and I'm sorry, some of these answers are going to be similar, but with Snoop, he definitely would need to make a public apology. I don't really like all the written apologies. I think it's better that people do something live and actually maybe go on a show the next day or in a couple of days or whatever, and actually let people feel the apology and feel where you are, even if we don't agree with you. I think it's more tangible that way.
Absolutely. We're gonna move on to our next scenario. So not even months after, and this person, warning, this person has been infamous for saying things allegedly that were controversial. But not even a month after causing controversy with her statement about Hakeem Phoenix, Wendy Williams was called out by fans, and this is a little dated, for making homophobic comments. On her talk show, Williams said gay men should stop trying to be the women that we are, in regards to wanting to celebrate the feminine-centric, the female-centric Valentine's Day. She goes on to say, stop wearing our shirts and our heels. And then she released a tearful apology video to the LGBTQ community. Before we go further with this Wendy Williams, now we know that she then got into it with Whitney Houston way back in the day. She got into it with the Clark sisters. How would you fix her life?
First of all, I would need Wendy to PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, Apple Pay, Carry Pigeon me a retainer fee for that PR damage control, because Wendy goes in and out with some of her comments and whatever. I love Wendy as a brand, but we also know that if you sign on to be a publicist, you know that you're going to have to do damage control. Right. So with that particular instance, I think the video apology is cool, but I would suggest to her, since you love cameras and stuff following you, let's find you an LGBTQ plus center to go to and take some sensitivity training and learn and sit down and talk to somebody and do it in real time or have it taped, because you need to be re-educated. You need to be re-educated. So that would probably be something I would suggest. Because for her to be doing like, how you doing and all this other stuff,
right?
It's already like, but then you're going to sit there and talk about gay people like they're so disposable.
Thank you. Now, this wasn't on the program, but because we're on the topic of celebrities who are making comments about the LGBT community, which we both are part of secretly, because nobody seems to know that before we got on the show.
Yeah.
But
how you doing?
How you doing? Anyway, we could easily go in on we know the situation with the baby, and he actually did work to like correct some of his steps when he was talking about Lil Nas X and not, he wasn't even talking about Lil Nas X. He was just talking about gay people and women. He said some really bad comments, and he went behind himself, and you saw he got re-educated and he learned something. He learned some things. But Boosie, would you be able to help him out?
There's not enough money in the world for me to take him on as a client. My integrity will be fighting with any deposit that he can make in my account. It's not worth it. I fired clients in my past. I let them go when it became a conflict with my vision of how to help them versus what they wanted, and we were butting heads. I sleep better at night with an account with money that I made on my principles based on acquiescing to foolishness, to stuff that could demean my brand or myself. So no, I couldn't work with him. Okay. I did work with one particular rapper, which shall remain nameless, that was on a radio show, on an interview, his baby mama and girlfriend and side chick all pulled up. And yeah. And the girlfriend didn't know about the side chick. She knew about the baby mama. 3 different people. It was a mess. And I had to do a lot of damage control for that. And it was also teaching y'all very quickly. There's extra money for that. It's not part of your contract for me to do damage control.
Right.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Right. And I don't think people understand like damage control isn't the main purpose of a publicist. That's not like their main focus. It's to help to brand and push your brand out, not to have to fix things all the time.
No, it's definitely on the landscape, but it should be the lower end of the landscape. I mean, stuff is going to happen.
Right.
You know, when Brandy accidentally or whatever people may think, when that car accident happened, that's damage control, but and as hard as it was to probably spin, she didn't do it on purpose.
Right.
And she was sorrowful and she publicly talked about it. And she talked about how it plagued her for a very long time.
Yeah.
As opposed to me having to sit these 3 different women down and say, y'all can't come up here doing this, that, and the third, because all 3 of y'all depending on him to pay y'all bills. So if you're doing this needs to be offline and not while he's in the middle of promoting his new album.
Right.
And he had to drop a couple stacks for me to take care of that.
Rightfully so.
And I didn't push a send button. I didn't create a media. I didn't do anything because it was just too much. And I wasn't prepared for that. I was so caught off guard, but I took care of it within 24 hours.
That's lit. I got something just popped into my mind. After we get through this list, I still got 2 more things.
Sure.
2 more people to talk about. So the next person on my list is Miss Tyra Banks. Tyra Banks was one of the few celebrities to immediately own up to her mistakes when she was called out in May for an old America's Next Top Model clip. In the resurfaced clip from 2006, this stuff is really old.
It's fine. It's still relevant.
Which was among numerous videos from the modeling competition show that have raised eyebrows in recent months. Host Tyra Banks tells contestant Danielle Evans that the gap in her teeth is not marketable and she should close it to secure a CoverGirl contract. Later, she told another contestant in the cycle to widen her gap. In response, Banks, now this is her apology, been seeing the post about the insensitivity of some of the past America's Next Top Model moments, and I agree with you. Looking back, those were some really off choices. I appreciate your honest feedback, and I'm sending so much love and virtual hugs. So that's what Tyra did. How do you feel?
Quickly, I think Tyra's an amazing person, and she has done a lot with the show. However, I'm always concerned about how women are portrayed in media and period. So period across the board by how they're portrayed. So when it comes to this situation, I'm glad that she did piggyback. Sometimes piggyback don't look good when you have done something like that. I just didn't understand how she is such an aficionado when it comes to modeling or whatever, telling somebody to. I could understand maybe telling them to close the gap because CoverGirl historically has, women of color and different women or whatever, but I think she knows what she was talking about with that. I don't know if that's something she should have done on the camera. I think that should have been something she should have said off camera. So it would not make the person feel belittled or feel more minimized than that. So
or the viewers that are watching that have gaps.
They have gaps in their teeth.
Yeah.
Or anybody with dental issues, period. I mean, that if you're going to be a model, that's something they're going to bring up anyway. But the way she did it, it's always about delivery. So in that particular instance, she did the right thing by self-correcting and saying, hey, I realize that she said 2 contradicting things, like telling one to close the gap and then telling the other one to widen the gap.
Yeah.
But I would need to know the reasons why. So if I were her publicist, I'd be like, so can you explain in detail why you would tell somebody to widen the gap? Like, what is that supposed to do? Because remember, she's somebody that people look up to. So I would need her to explain that. But I'm glad that she just said look, those were conflicting, whatever. I'm sorry, and then moved on.
Cool. I got now. I always cringe with this one. I've been cringing since last week. Every time I get on social media, there's
Mhm.
no way you will not see a clip or a story about this right here.
Oh, Jesus.
Right here. This is getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
But I think this is the most appropriate situation in which we can talk about it. How do you fix their life?
Will do the right thing by getting ahead of the story in terms of not letting the academy make a decision for him. So I'm quite sure he sat down with his manager and publicist and whoever else was like, what am I going to do? Or either he told them, look, I want to pull out the academy. What do you think? I think that was good. Um, but now, because of those particular consequences now that he's suffering, is that films and other stuff is being halted. Sony and Netflix are like, no. So I'm glad that he got ahead of it by not letting the Academy say, hey, da 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 da, we're gonna, just put you out. He just said, I'm gonna withdraw. With Chris, um, he's been kind of silent
Yeah.
and letting his silence basically speak. And I don't know what they're saying because with silence, it could speak a number of different things. With Chris, I'm glad that Will said something first before Chris because I feel like because he was the one that was assaulted, that Will should have been the first one
Mm-hmm.
to say something. But my stance has been my own personal stance, mixed in with some PR or whatever, is the fact that both of them made poor choices. Will's is a little heavier because he the one that walked up and slapped Chris, but they both made poor choices, and now these are the consequences. But the flip side is that Will's stuff is getting shut down, and Chris's tour is like
Yeah.
is at an uptick.
Yeah.
But I need Chris to come out and talk about it. I want both of them just to go somewhere with a trusted journalist and have a discussion.
Yeah. Absolutely. Me personally, I feel like the situation it happened. I think like the news media and social media is blowing it way out of proportion, and they're keeping this situation alive, and they keep on like they're making it so much worse.
Hmm.
And I don't know how bad it can be, but they're making it so much worse. Um, as you mentioned with Will Smith, like a lot of his stuff is being pulled. People are like saying, "No, we're not going to deal with Will." Will Smith was one of the top actors in Hollywood, aka the world. Um, he had so much influence. A lot of that has dwindled because of that situation. Do you think that he could get back to a place of reigning the way he was?
It's going to take some time. One of my concerns is, which I need to do the research. I don't want to talk about it too much, but I saw an alleged quote from Jada saying that Will made that decision and she didn't need protecting. And I was like, you basically just undermine
He, yeah,
everything that he just
did for you.
yeah, the damage control. I'm not gonna say for her, but the damage control that he was doing to try to repair this by saying that. I don't know if it's a true quote, but I saw it in a couple different places. So I
I
need to check.
actually
I need
saw
to check.
that too.
Yes, I'm going to check my media sources, but you have to be careful too. Like, if there's a plan in place where we're going to fix something, everybody's got to be on board. That means you don't go sign up and do if your boyfriend shouldn't go do an interview behind your back without you knowing and saying something that y'all didn't agree to talk about. It
Right.
has to be streamlined. It can't just be six different narratives. But I do want, if Will and Chris don't do it together, I want them separately to go to somebody that they trust as a journalist. I don't care who it is, as long as preferably somebody of color, preferably because we have our own nuances that everybody else may not understand.
Right.
To interview them again, it could be collectively or separately, but they need to just have a discussion.
Absolutely. All right. So we are actually winding down in time. I know that I have another question I want to ask you, but
Sure.
also you have an announcement to make. So my question kind of like goes in line with like client integrity or
Mm-hmm.
anonymity. I know I said that word wrong, but you know what I mean.
Anonymity. Yes.
Yeah. So has that ever been an issue with you from the client's perspective? Maybe because I know that you take pride in what you do, but have you ever had a situation where a client kind of like breached the situation, or they kind of like put themselves in a bad space?
Yeah, like I told you about the rapper, that was, I mean, he didn't do it, but he should have had more of that under control. Or I had one client that was known for getting around town. She was around town. And I had to sit down and talk to her. I said, if the streets are talking, that means you're doing too much.
Yeah.
And I said, you can do you with how many people you want to. But if it's getting back to me, that means it's too many people talking because my ears to the street. But if it sounds like a subway versus an ant walking across the ground, that's two
Yeah.
different types of what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So things like that, because she had a particular public image to uphold, and I was like, you gotta just limit maybe some of the people that you're seeing. Also, it could be different things where people don't pay, or and they're just like, whatever. Or recently, I made a misstep with a particular pitch I was working on, and the client was like, "Well, I just don't think this is going to work anymore," and we amicably just said goodbye. And I take that because I'm human. Now, I have not made thousands of mistakes as a publicist, but it could have been a stronger pitch, and she just
Mhm.
felt like it wasn't strong enough. And guess what? That's fine. I don't profess to be God. I'm good, but I'm not God. So yes, integrity will come into play quite often. You're going to have people, stuff will come out of the woodworks, and you have to have a conversation with your client when you start working with them, especially if they plan on going to something that's high profile. Like, do you got any skeletons or anything that I needed to know about?
Well,
Any
luckily for you, all of mine are already out there.
Yes, I think I had a conversation with you. Is there anything I need to know? You were like, no, you know everything. And I'm like, this is true. And
Yeah.
everybody else that I work with,
And
I pretty
whatever I
much,
didn't make public is in the book,
right. Show
which
your
is
book.
A Life of Lust, Memoirs of the Porn Star, which is available on KevinM.com. You can go purchase your copy. I'm making another run in the morning, or I'm having a run made in the morning, not
Yes.
some more. Before we end, you said you have an announcement.
Yes, so this is my last call. Singing Tracy Braxton. May she rest in peace. Um, oh, so my announcement is that a few months ago I went to audition for a Broadway showcase workshop, excuse me, a Broadway workshop. And for those that don't know what that is, a workshop is like the pre thing that happens before it hits Broadway. So just keep your fingers crossed. It's pretty major. It's based on a major singer who's no longer here. Um, I'm going to be an alternate, but I'm also singing on the soundtrack. So I'm very excited about that. So
Awesome.
y'all would know something by June. I think that's when we're going to know when everything is finalized. June or July max. So yeah, Broadway, here I come.
Awesome. Before we go, where can people find and follow you?
You can go to Twitter, Chris the PR Oracle. Hey, it's down there.
Yeah.
I always want to be one of those people to be like, it's right there, and I get to see it. So it's and Instagram is PR Guru 71. Chris the PR Oracle is on Twitter, CHRISDA Oracle ORACLE, and then Facebook is Christopher D. Weaver.
Okay. So
You
go
can find me
follow
there.
Chris. Keep
Please
up
do.
what's going on. And listen, send some love. Please send some love and support and encouragement. People don't understand. Like people go through, like he's the middleman between like making sure we look good and getting on us to make sure that we don't like the public and us and the interview people that set that stuff up and us. So like he puts in so much work. Those are the type of people you need to be encouraging and supporting because
Thank you.
they carry a lot. And like I said about Chris, this isn't his full-time job. He has another job on top of what we're doing.
Yeah.
So make sure you guys are always supporting and praying for it and send him some encouraging words.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you so much for being on the show and spending this hour with me. I didn't get as tipsy as I thought I was going to get, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I only had the Diet Coke, but cheers.
Yeah, so cheers to you.
Cheers.
To everyone watching. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Cocktail Hour with Kyng Kevyn. I am your host, Kyng Kevyn, and your bartender. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
See you. Thank you.